Wasn't inventing and listening to diverting stories the pleasantest part of life? It still is, my man Orhan, it still is. Hi everyone, here's the Bookchemist once again, and today I'm reviewing The White Castle by Nobel Prize winning Turkish writer Orhan Pamuk, which is a book I loved. I loved it for a variety of reasons, most notably because it's an amazing book, but I loved it also because it shows brilliantly how the show don't tell rule is complete bullshit. One of the suggestions that is usually given to writers is, show the events you are talking about as they unfold in your narrative, rather than telling your readers about them from an outward perspective. And I've always thought that, of course there are reasons behind that kind of suggestion, but I've always thought it quite pointless, because of course some of the greatest fiction in human history, be it most of the production of H.P. Lovecraft, be it some of Umberto Eco's best stuff, be it The White Castle by Orhan Pamuk, is written as told fiction from a completely outward perspective. Following the show don't tell rule religiously basically teaches you how to write like an American, like someone like, Hemingway or John Didion or Truman Capote. And that's great, but it doesn't mean that there aren't other awesome ways of narrating stories. And for instance, Moonglow by Michael Chabon, one of my favorite books from last year, features some beautifully told passages, some of the most striking in the whole novel. White Castle, as I mentioned, is an entirely told tale, and it is supposedly a found manuscript. It is the story of a 17th century Italian student who is captured by the Turks during his youth and is sold as a slave in Istanbul, and starts a weird relationship, which is not necessarily romantic or sexual, but maybe it is, with his master, who is this weird figure, with this weird man of sciences, who is filled with quirky obsessions and quirky ideas about knowledge, about the self, about the universe. And their relationship and the way power shifts constantly in this relationship, and the way they discuss literature and power, and the way they plot their way toward a better life in Istanbul's society, is described in this manuscript, which walks a very thin line between being kind of a maybe historical novel and a quirky, almost fantastical novel about weird, fascinating machines and supreme instruments of war, and the kind of doppelgangers you usually find in early 19th century German literature. Doppelganger as in, alter ego. The found manuscript nature of The White Castle gave it a nice mysterious edge and vibe, which I am a total sucker for, and it reminded me a lot of The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. And in many ways, I think The Name of the Rose and The White Castle are complementary books. They both begin with a preface by the man who, edited the manuscript in a way for the modern reader, except that in The Name of the Rose, Eco actually says that one of the great things about the manuscript is presenting you is that it has nothing to do with the political wars of today. It is pure escapism. Whereas in The White Castle, the man who offers you this manuscript tells you that he was interested in it because he saw several connections between the political world of the manuscript, which is, the world of the 17th century, and the political world of today. Which is weird and is of course part of the genius of these novels, because The Name of the Rose deals extensively with medieval politics, and it's very hard not to see at least a few parallels between the way politics was played in the Middle Ages and is played in the world of today. Whereas The White Castle does not feel like a political book at all. If anything, it feels really like sheer escapism. These guys, the main characters, this slave and his master, sure, they are plotting to, advance their position in this society, but it does not look like they have any political position at all. They're just thinking about their science and literature and ways to live a better life. Overall, The White Castle is a beautiful, very sinister narrative that at times feels extremely dreamy, so much that places like Turkey and Italy start feeling like dreamscapes, the kind of places you visit in a Lord Dunsany book. At times it feels very much like a novel or short story by someone like Poe or E.T.A. Hoffman. It's an amazing novel in the same vein as Ico, already mentioned, or Borges, or, Italo Calvino. If you like that kind of quirky literature where, the laws of narrative are disrupted a little bit, quirky things and weird things happen to the characters, this is exactly the kind of book for you. It's also quite Kafkaesque in its own way, and its ending is brilliant and again very sinister, and it will make you feel like, rereading the entire novel all over again. It's clever and it's beautifully orchestrated and you will never forget it, and it might be escapism, it might be political, but if you feel like getting lost in a great tale, this is the book for you, totally. White Castle by Orhan Pamuk, amazing. Thank you for watching the review, guys. Let me know what you thought about the novel if you've read it, or other Orhan Pamuk's novels. I'm looking for my next Pamuk book. I'm not sure what I should be reading. Let me know in the comments below. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.